Okay, so we just get started. First of all, Jean, thank you for coming in. If you could perhaps just tell us why you came to see us in the first place, and what drove you to us, and how that is now.
Right, well, I was getting desperate. Am I looking at you, by the way, or the camera?
You can look at me,
Look at
that'll
you,
be fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was not sleeping well. I was anxious. I was unhappy in myself and didn't know why. Had a very nice life. Nothing in my life should have caused me anxiety. I should have been perfectly happy with the way things were. But my poor husband was, well, he had to get up and disappear to the spare room or the sofa 2 or 3 nights a week. I was snoring so badly. I had sleep apnea, and of course didn't know I was doing it because I was asleep. I only woke up and found him not there, which was quite distressing because I realised I'd chased him away, and I hated that, and it was out of my control. I think I'm a bit controlling, and I don't like the idea it's out of control. Through lack of sleep, I was getting desperate. I was so tired all the time. It was changing my personality, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I went to the doctor, and they referred me to the Papworth Sleep Clinic, and they couldn't help me either. They tried a CPAP machine with this sort of mask over my face at night, and I couldn't cope with that. I have claustrophobia, and I just couldn't bear that. I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't like myself particularly. And I was eating constantly, just shoving anything in I could get hold of. Wasn't really tasting it, just eating it. It was, I suppose I could control what I was eating, so I was eating all the time. And someone said to me, in fact my sister said to me, have you thought of hypnotherapy? And she's not the sort who would normally suggest that sort of thing, and I'm not the sort of person that I would have thought someone would suggest hypnotherapy to, because I'm pretty down to earth. I'm a bit cynical. I'm not happy clappy or crystal gazing, which I know now that isn't what it's about, but at the time hypnotherapy makes you think it's going to be alternative and a bit weird, and so I didn't know what to expect, but I was prepared to try anything. But I wanted someone who was recommended, so I asked around, and I heard about yourselves through a couple of people who had stopped smoking. Nothing to do with anxiety or eating problems, but they had stopped smoking, and in fact one of them apparently didn't even want to stop, and they stopped. So I thought, well, that's quite good. I'll give it a try, because I was so desperate, and that's how I came to you.
How are things now since you finished therapy?
I'm calmer, happier in myself. I'm eating normally. Say normally, I can have treats, I can have things I like. I'm not yearning for food, and I'm not using it as a stopgap for anything. I don't have to be eating all the time. I've lost 2.5 stone, which is amazing, and I couldn't believe. And I almost worried about it. Was there something wrong with me? I'd lost so much weight so quickly. There isn't anything wrong with me. I was just being a pig, basically, previously, and was stuffing everything in. I'm fitter, happier, sleeping better. I think only once in the last 6 months has Dave ended up on the settee, and I think that was because I had a cold, and when I'm coldy I tend to go back to snoring. So he's incredulous as well, and didn't really know what it was about, but is perfectly happy to accept the results, which he thinks is wonderful. He's got a new slimline wife who he loves to show off. He doesn't have his sleep disturbed, and I'm just happier altogether, really, and calmer. I still, now and again, I still get the anxiety. I still wake up a bit tense, but I can be logical about it and cope with it, and it goes away. And because I've lost the weight, I'm fitter, I'm doing more exercise. So generally, all round, I just feel better in myself.
Now you went through pure hypnoanalysis and you had the relaxed eating program at the same time. How did you find those two therapies?
I seem to recall that you talked me through the relaxed eating program before I'd even had any hypnotherapy. And the very strange thing was, it must have just struck a chord with me immediately, because that morning, before I'd seen you, I had been to the cake shop. And I'd had a couple of cream cakes, because one was never enough. And I'd had tea and biscuits, and I'd had lunch, and I'd been, you know, my usual self. And you talked me through this relaxed eating programme. And at tea time, I started it. And I continued it from then on, and it never ever bothered me. I could not believe the difference, your explanation of eating and how to sort of counteract that stuffing my face all the time, how that would work. And I still don't understand how it works, so but I don't care anymore because it works. The hypnotherapy, again, not what I expected. I expected to be hypnotised, and of course you're not. It's like a deep relaxation where you can just talk, remember things, get them out in the open. It took me a little while to get used to that. I found it very hard to start with, as you're aware. The first time you asked me to think about what was I thinking about, I had to say nothing. And I remember you saying, if you're thinking about nothing, you're dead. So there must be something in there, even if it's, I can't do this. And I said, that's it. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm thinking, what does she want to hear? So it was quite hard, and it took me 2 or 3 sessions to actually, not to learn what you wanted, but to take advantage of the session so that I could come out with what was in there. Nothing earth-shattering. No memories came out of it that I was suppressing. They were all things that I was aware of, but it must have been the opportunity to talk about them that made all the difference. And so I wasn't sure if it was working, because, as if nothing new was coming out. And I couldn't believe just talking about it was what was doing the trick, because I'd always been able to talk to my husband, and I'd always talked everything through. But the bottom line is, it has worked, and I can't explain why. And it doesn't matter whether I can understand why it's worked. I just know that it has. That's all I can say, really.
Has there been anything that surprised you? Any other things that you weren't aware that have changed since therapy?
I think it's probably just my general attitude to things. Just more chilled about things, and I'm more able to come to terms with things. You know, if things bother me, I can shrug my shoulders more, and you were saying about previously about that 1 minute rule. Think about something for a minute and then that's enough. I think it's more than a minute. I can't keep it down to a minute, but they don't bother me so much. I still wake up anxious now and again in the mornings, but I can say there's nothing to be anxious about, get on with the day, and I can do that. I had a bit of a hiccup a couple of weeks ago when I had to stay on my own, which I hate, and I really wound myself up about that. And it took me, I was on my own for 3 days, and it took me perhaps 2 days after they were over to get my equilibrium back. But it came back, and I didn't at any time during those 5 days go back to comfort eating. I didn't feel the need to do that. I was churned up emotionally, but didn't feel the need to go back, and I thought that was result. You know, that was wonderful. I now have a coping mechanism. So that's generally